Hello, thank you for being here and joining us today. Today we are with Jack Odell, and we will be talking about how it is that we can organize the community to be better nonviolent warriors.
So thank you again, Mr. Odell, for joining us and spending time to help us learn more about what we can do as a new generation to help change America. I would like to start off by asking, I read in your lecture about the sense of being somebody or having a somebody-ness, and you quoted the term, I am somebody. And I was wondering, because another part of our assignment is having the ability to be ourselves of other selves, so putting the community before our own individual needs, so the feeling of not putting ourselves into it, but putting the movement before ourselves. And I was wondering, how do those two relate and contrast?
Well, I want to thank you all for this invitation to have this conversation. The somebodyness of each of us is one of the most precious things we can hold on to. That is not being egotistic. It just means if people don't have a sense of their somebodyness, that becomes a barrier to them receiving information that's inspirational. We've had to believe in ourselves and believe in what we can do, at least as a starter. And then out of the process of what we learn about what the possibilities are, our somebodyness grows, and as a result, we become more and more convinced of what we're able to accomplish. But having a poor sense of self-esteem is a barrier to our own consciousness. That's basically it. We're growing our consciousness of our surroundings and of the things in our surroundings that need change. And the second part of that is our role in changing it. But we have to have a sense of somebodyness, and that has to be worked on little by little, if you will, at whatever pace, so that people can say, yeah, I think I could do that.
Well, speaking on that particular piece, we're actually taught that conduct, character, and consciousness are our main three roles when it comes to trying to change ourselves. And also going to your piece of the profession of social change activism, you speak about education and being an educator. And I would like to ask, in your opinion, when it comes to teaching and when it comes to educating, do you feel that there is a connection in being a well-educated teacher or a strong teaching educator?
Let's take that again. I got to think about that while you're saying it.
Well,
now just the last part.
Right.
Do I think?
Do you feel as though that the connection between a strong educator or and a strong teacher?
Oh. Well, there is a split there which you articulate. To be a strong educator, you have to know what being educated is. You can't communicate something that you don't know. And so you may discover that you are a strong educator in the process of teaching, you see, because you see the results that you get. And I guess you could start with either one, but the point is the self-esteem is an important prerequisite for assuming a role of changing anybody's opinion about anything, even about you.
Right.
You know, you have, so find the natural. Let's say that it's natural. We try to restore the natural if it's been stepped on. But to have the natural sense of whatever I understand, I can communicate to someone else. And in the process of learning how to do that, I deepen my own understanding. And so it isn't an all giving out, it's also a taking in. Mm-hmm. And the best way to teach is to be a good listener. You know, in other words, because you're able to hear what people understand of what you're trying to say and what they don't understand. And you're given an idea of where to start in this process of having an exchange of ideas. And it's always that. I mean, like, okay, you can be in a classroom where you're the teacher, you know what I mean, and the students have to shut up. But that's not cool, really, you know what I mean. It's better to be able to reach the student where the student is, if you are the teacher, and bring the student to where you are by virtue of your kindness, patience, qualities that come out of your self-understanding of who you are. You're the teacher. You're not sitting up there arguing with the student. You know, you are the person that student is really depending upon to pull himself or herself out of a non-understanding mode, and understand that you're trying to pass on to the student everything you know, for whatever that's worth.
Mr. Odell, a lot of times when I have a question about organizing, when I organize, let's say a group of people, the way I organize is I try to inspire them to not, like, it's not I'm telling them, oh, you know, go here or let's do this, but it's sort of inspire them to let them know that by doing so they're helping themselves more, so sort of motivate them to go. And I was wondering if you have any different ways of organizing, like better ways in which I can do it.
No. Motivating them, that means you're showing respect and love and appreciation. And that tells them that in your eyesight, there's somebody. And that's the best way to get to them and to give them any new information. There's somebody. Somebody's received information that's given. So you're not trying to hammer out, and, you know, you must know this because I say so. No. That's the best way. You're communicating because there's a bond there, and they come to respect the fact that you know and care enough about them to try to pass on some information that they can use. But you're not forcing it on them, even though you have authority. That doesn't. Authority is just to protect yourself from, you know, injury.
Yeah, right.
but you know, presence as a neighbor and friend and someone that really cares, and you're not pretending that you really care. You don't try to. You really care. You want to be helpful as the teacher, and you start to listen, and then you get respect because you have listened, and then they listen to what you have to say.
And it seems as though that it would not only increase the amount of respect between people, but also increase their self-esteem, as you stated, because it allows them to hear and know that there is somebody there that really does want them to succeed, and they're just not saying it and not actually backing it up with any substantial work.
That's correct. That's right. And that they have as limitless a possibility as you have. It'll take work. You've been at it longer, but they have as limitless a possibility for leadership as you have.
It's very important to be able to educate and share in the circle, because it's better to go out and try to give someone the opportunity to speak up rather than to just ignore and pretend like they are they're non-existent. They don't really belong in the circle because of the way they believe. So it's not really making enemies, but it's more building that relation with them, knowing that if they don't want to change, that's fine, and we still accept them because they're still family and they're still people who were born on the same earth. And it's very important for us as people to communicate with each other.
Now, we live in a culture where there's a lot of top-down, quote, leadership. And people expect, what do y'all want us to do? And you find this in the church, in politics, or, you know what I mean, our leader. But that has a counterproductive place at some point. At some point, that breaks down, and so people, when that breaks down, people leave. They don't stay. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So that means that that's an unnatural thing in the first place, you know. But they'll go there, and, you know, what you want, you know what I mean? Like, well, who is? Oh, so and so is the leader of this. Or then so and so gets up and blows about what ought to be done, and expect you to walk out of there and do it. Now, people may do that for a while, but they may not be. They're not. Then you're relying upon them being enthusiastic about what you're saying, but that can wear off because people have other things diverting their attention. There's other things they can be enthusiastic about: eating, going to the ball game, watching television. Then you're in competition with that. You don't need that competition. But if we approach it right, you're the only person doing that. The person is attracted to you because that's the difference in this relationship. That person gets a sense of growth and self-respect because you are a good listener and a friend. And therefore, they can even look at what they think are their shortcomings and they feel free to express it because you're not antagonistic to them being what they can be.
Right. And speaking on the point of being in competition with the ball games and being in competition with the television and what we like to call a false culture of today's society with many of our youth, my question actually focuses on that. Like, how will we be able as organizers to contend with the fact that a lot of these students are getting these subliminal messages or these advertisements of what they would like to be, but what they actually need to be in order to not only better themselves, but to also better their communities as well?
Well, in my opinion, that's a long-term, that is a long-term process. In other words, these other distractions, and we might call them distractions for purposes of our conversation, that keep them from the things they could be focused on. They are very much part of everyday life, and even after people make up their mind they really don't want to do it, there's constant temptation there to do it because they're in a society that does it all the time, and people they're talking with every day. You know, did you see such and such a thing last night? Well, no, I had the television off. Well, you know what I mean? Now, how did they deal with that? I mean, are they still part of the gang? Are they still part of the group? You didn't watch the ball game? You know what I mean? Did you see whatever what the brother did? So you almost have to, you have to be familiar with what they have been watching,
Right.
in order not to offend. Yeah, that was quite a thing, but I didn't spend all evening watching it because I had something else to do. I turned mine off at a certain point. You remember we agreed last week that we weren't going to watch but 20 minutes of today's 1 hour thing? Yeah, but you know, I know that was a temptation. But, you know, you see what I'm saying? Now, and we have less to talk about today because you watched the whole game and I watched 3 innings of it. So you saw 7 more innings than I did. But I was thinking about what we've been talking about that other time, because I want us to to move on and get our game together. We have to wean people off because these are habits that we have been introduced to, or probably almost from childhood, you know. And of course, our adversaries are counting on us failing to wean people off of these things. They pay millions of dollars to keep people watching. We, you know, almost any sport or any other thing that you watch, you know, there'll be 10 minutes on the thing and then 3 minutes of advertising. Well, that's 3 out of 13. That's 25%. You know, and then as you get hooked into it, you know, it may even be more. So the point is, we can't be unreal about what people are dealing with in everyday life, and that requires patience, understanding, and even a scientific approach to what is holding people's attention at this sport or whatever, and how we share a conversation that says, you know, these people are trying to keep us from thinking about that new vacuum. And that new vacuum is more important than what we're trying to do now. You can make up your mind about what you got to buy or some clothes or something at any time. You don't need a television. You really don't. So we could spend that time talking about things that we are doing. Because that advertising is really not essential to us make a decision about buying something if we want to buy it. It really isn't. But they come to think that it is, or they become adjusted to the fact that it's presented and therefore it's part of the surroundings, and therefore, oh, okay. Then people say, the ad said, call now, call now. Well, wait a minute. You try not calling and see if it makes any difference in your life. Call now, and if you'll get another cut rate if you fall in the next 10 minutes. It's a game. So we have to almost study the game as that game. I mean, that particular game of keeping us attached to the program. When we may want to go to the kitchen and get a cup of coffee or something else more urgent. I mean, but they won't move. People won't move. Call now, and then they give you the phone number. Man, hey, we have to become human again. Our humanity is assaulted by that. We're capable of, you know what I mean? But getting people to have insights about that. But once the insights are broken into now, it becomes easier. They'll be telling you, you know, I don't listen to that no more.
I think it's important, something that we talk about in the Freedom Center and in the Institute is living in society without society living in you. So
very good. That's very good.
You know, you are living in, let's say, you know, we are living in this society, and not necessarily do we need to consume all of that society, you know, what the advertisement you're talking about is giving out. And I think it's important to learn, you know, like you said, you know, not necessarily cut yourself out from society because you are living in it, but allowing yourself to break off, and also, you know, sort of like what you said, watch 20 minutes of the game and then spend the rest doing something else, and other different ways in which we can do it. I think it's important.
Because time, the use of time is important. I mean, even if you're going to live to be 90 years old, the use of time is important. You have, whatever your age is, if you break that down, that's just so many days, and that's so many hours, and that's so many minutes. Well, therefore, it's hours and days and minutes for us to live. Not to be a prisoner. If you converted that into jail, you say, I don't want all that time in jail.
Yeah.
But if they got your mind, you in jail.
Yeah.
You see, but it's the same thing. It's the same minute. It's the same hour. How are you going to spend it? That, you know, so it's a conversation that has no antagonism to it, really, if you just put it down, you know what I mean? Because we all are going to have a certain number of years to live, and that's a certain number of days, that's a certain amount, and that boils down to minutes. So the minutes become important only because you're conscious of living and trying to live usefully. And that comes from a definition of who you are.
And also kind of speaking on that, we, a lot of the times as organizers, focus on trying to build that community relation with people so that they would be able to see that it is tough, and in the long run it will actually help you build up yourself as well. And also going into that, my question focuses on how to build community, because when you spell out the word community, the main word in it is unity, and that bit and unity is what this society needs in order for what Dr. King calls to be a worldwide brotherhood again. And so my question is, how can we put the unity back in that community while still living in this particular society?
Well, the how comes from first understanding that it has to be done, that there's a sense of urgency in doing it. Because what is being pulled away is the sense of unity. We have made individuals to an excess. But that's not what an individual is. We are born on a planet that's got X billions of people. That's our first home. Mm-hmm. And we are born as an individual, but we come here to be part of something. The most natural thing is our relationship. And if we thought that wasn't true, try to take a baby and leave it and go out and desert it. Well, that's terrible. That child would grow up with psychological trauma. It's unimaginable. So the unity is the natural. We don't sacrifice the individualism we have in some negative way. I mean, we are individuals, but we are individual parts of a larger scene, of a larger existence. And everything we do has the element of cooperation in it by necessity. I mean, we don't, almost everything we do. So, even if you eat something, someone has prepared it, and somebody has planted the corn, and so we don't know. Wait a minute. We just have to say, wait a minute. This individualism can be taken to an excess that is destructive. Mm. And so, and the point is, people who are only concerned with getting some money will try, and where they divide to appeal to you individually, they're prepared. They don't worry about that, because what they're looking for is the wealth they're going to get for me and mine. That, you know what I mean? It enters into, so that's no accident that things are broken down into, how does this person think about, what do we have to say to this person in order to get them to buy this? And somebody else, you gauge it to another group and it's said differently. It's because of the culture of individualism that is exaggerated. The individual exists as a person whose normal existence requires on the larger humanity of circles that he or she is in. That's what's natural. And what we are struggling for is to get over the unnatural situation that greed and corporatism has created. And that sounds very political, but it is. Mm-hmm. Sounds political because it is. There's no other way of doing it. But the basic understanding is that the greatest things we have in life is our relationship with other human beings. Mm. All else flows from that, really. And there's nothing like a person, there's no sadder thing than to see a brother or a sister who has been cut off from that. That's why they pick up drugs and all kind of behavior that's psychotic and stuff. If you put a person in solitary confinement, they might commit suicide. Well, why is that? Because the natural thing is for us to be part of a larger, active, what we call society. And the society should have the kindness and the sense of love and cooperation that makes being part of it, an everyday experience that we don't want to lose.
It says, Dr. King says, a threat to justice anywhere is a threat. No, a threat to justice somewhere is a threat to justice anywhere.
Sure.
And everywhere.
Yeah.
And that nonviolence is not the opposite of violence. Rather, it is the belief that we as people should live in unity and have equality with one another, and not isolate and alienate each other from what our basic principles that humans usually have. The want to be well fed and clothed, the want to be healthy rather than sick, the right to be in communication with others. And it's very important that we see nonviolence not as just opposite of violence, rather than a direct action against the hatred that is formed between the person and the individual against society. So we break down the barriers that close off us and the consumeristic, materialistic desires of the world. Just as you said, we're giving the humanity back to the people. That's rather right. than it being taken from us.
That's right. And enables them to take it back. That's the ultimate. We can give them just so much, but the idea is for them, give them just enough, give them what we can,
right,
so that they can decide to take it and keep it for themselves. Yes. Because then they say, yeah, because I'm entitled to this. Many people don't think they're entitled to calmness and respect and caring. A person can be treated in such a way that they lose that sense of the right to these things that are very natural in society. And that's why psychiatrists make a lot of money. But the struggle to get back to nature, if you will, the natural condition of society is cooperation, not competition. Mm-hmm. Sharing, not selfishness. Knowledge, not ignorance. And so forth.
And it's like, as we break it down, the struggle and the movement was focused on the idea of nonviolence, and that was the what, really. Like, what is nonviolence? Well, if you really break it down, the how to become nonviolent is, as the Reverend Dr. Vivian says, it's only through nonviolent direct action do we actually change anything, one, and two, also becoming what Dr. King calls nonviolence practitioners. And so the practicing of nonviolence is the what, and the how to do it is by going through nonviolent direct action, which really means being able to focus in on what needs to be changed, mm-hmm, and going through the paces to understand that this one way will not work unless something else has to be put in its place before anything can actually change.
Well, that breaks down. The practice of nonviolence is the practice of developing our humanity. It's our humanity that is assaulted by all of the individualistic, greed, operative things that go on. We're reclaiming our humanity. So we refuse to go out here and kill somebody in order to have our way, all right. But it's reclaiming our humanity, which is who we are, human. That's what it means to be human. Human, we reclaim our humanity. And it has to be reclaimed because it can be taken from us in such slick ways that people become very sophisticated about taking away our humanity. Because they don't want us to recognize that's what's happening. Mm-hmm. Nonviolence and the reclaiming of our humanity wakes us up, gives us a level of consciousness that permits us to do things that we wouldn't do otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's important to know that, like you said, giving people the opportunity to understand that we are human, that we do have the right to care. And I think a lot of times in society, let's say you commit a crime, and we don't take those people in and let them know that we do care, and they are part of us. And it's sort of more seen like, oh, you did something, you're supposed to be in prison, and all that kind of stuff. And they come out and they can't get a job or anything like that, and people look down upon them instead of really helping each other, lift each other up, hold each other under each other's wings. And I think it's important for us to understand that when organizing, you not only organize the people who are gonna respond well, or maybe not respond well, but the people who are really gonna understand that you care, and that they do have the opportunity to be part of a community and to be part of a uniting society. I think that that's important.
The United States is 5% of the world's population, and we have 25% of the prison population of the world. There's something wrong with that, man.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Is that the definition of freedom? Is that the definition of democracy? Is that what it means, the world's leading democracy? We are 5% of the population, but we have 25% of the world's prisoners. You can just take that one statistic and build a case for fundamental change. If we didn't want to do anything but change that relationship, that would be the first stage of a social revolution. And the point is, what is the reason for that disparity? I mean, it didn't rain that. I mean, it happened. What? Wait a minute. If we watched that percentage of people die every day, you'd say, whoa. Mm-hmm. Something is wrong. Well, something is wrong without, just take that one. And then you can just take these extremes in our present society as they compare with other norms, and that's the basis for us discussing the nonviolent road to social change and have a certain sense of immediacy about it. The only way we can believe some of these mythologies about the United States is to have our mind isolated from what the realities are in our own country. I mean, what's going to war in Iraq or Afghanistan got to do with that? We just have to think. We just have to develop the will to do some critical thinking, not to do some uncritical following. Mm-hmm. That life does not expect us. We weren't created to be uncritical followers of nothing. I mean, no. That's where we have the facility to think. We wouldn't be born with it. Everything we got, there is a use for. I mean, and the ability to think and solve problems of prevention as well as correction are ours to do. And training us to not do that is taking us backwards, both as individuals and as society. And that's where Dr. King says, the world expects of America a maturity we may not be able to achieve. We have to become mature. That's what our struggle today is, about the maturing of a national culture in the United States that allows us to live in the world without having to spend $600 billion a year on a military budget. Mm-hmm. That's craziness. It's real. That's what it's about.
And kind of speaking on that, there's a part in a poem in our curriculum that states to know what occurs but not recognize the fact. And we would like to get your opinion on going back to when you stated the maturity of us growing as a community and or as a society, and we would like to get your opinion on, do you feel as though that the reason why we're not maturing as a society or as a community is because we know what's happening, but we just decide not to do anything about it? Or is it the fact that we just know nothing at all? And if it is because we know nothing at all, what do you feel is the reason for that?
Well, I think you've laid out the division. We don't know it's happening to the degree that it is happening, but we do know something is happening that is not in sync. You know, people wake up every day over some incident. I didn't know that was happening. Wait a minute, this is getting too bad. You know, I mean, if you had a job and you lose it, well, that's the starting point. But then you anticipate that you're going to get it back because you had a job. But if you go on for an extended period of time and you don't get that, you know that something is operating that you didn't immediately recognize. You know, that's why they put words on it. That, you know, this is a crisis. You know, this is a general crisis as over against this is just a passing one. I mean, so people knowing that a thing is happening gives them they have two things. They say, well, wait a minute, I got to do something about this. Or they give up, which means this is happening and I have no answer to it. Because for me, there is no answer. I just surrender to it and see how long I can take this happening to me, and well, hey. So then we find other escape routes, drugs, you know, other things, you know, or steal, or you know, I mean, or they just go out and kill somebody. I mean, like, you know, oh well, you know, rob a liquor store or something. People do, the behavior pattern grows out of other things that have happened to people that have brought them to that stage. So some things we don't know because we don't want to know them. Some things we don't know because it's never been explained. You know, there's this level of, you know what I mean, people, so you try to find which one is it that they would like to know about and see if we can start that in the process of them becoming an expanded pattern of knowledge, embracing an expanded pattern of knowledge. It's all of that. You see what I'm saying? It's not knowing, knowing a little, not wanting to know. Each of these has to have an approach made that turns it around to receiving information and self-esteem and everything that goes with being informed.
So, if I may,
Sure.
For those who have listened to the lectures or have identified what's going on and want to take action as of today, so the people who went to the lecture series, those who have listened to those who have made history and want themselves to add on to the change of making America better, on behalf of those people and myself, where do we go from here today in changing America?
We go to wherever a particular problem attracts you. Go. And see how much you can learn about it and see what you can contribute to solving it. But go. Because don't wait on it to come to you, because that's not a state of readiness. Go where you have the latitude to look and choose, but it's not encompassing you. You ain't overwhelmed by it. You know what I'm saying? Because you had the mobility to go and take a look at it. But do that from the standpoint of seeking a solution or seeking to be helpful to people making a change. And it takes a lot of people to make a change, but it doesn't take but one person at a time to make up their mind that they want to be helpful to produce that change. Where do we go? We go to where the problems are. And with an attitude that says, I'm going there to see if there's anything I can do. And there may, at one point, you may see a little bit you can do, and at another point, you may be seeing a lot you can do. But one of the other things is how many other people are aware of that. And then the conversation with other people that have been there too. Right. And so you collectively make that decision, because the more of us who are focused on a given problem, the greater the possibility for changing the situation, for solving it. But the point is, where do we go? Where do we go? Go where the problem is. Don't retreat from it. Because the problem is not in you unless you don't want to go. No, you see what I'm saying? If you know, because if you don't want to go, well, there's a problem in you then. It just follows. Yeah, but go. Meaning I'm going to put myself in the place of better understanding this problem or that problem or the other, or the problems. And then out of that, what do you come away with in terms of a made-up mind about what you might be able to do? And you'll make a choice. Can't do about all of it, or you can do about all of it, but you'll make up your mind. But you are different by having gone. So the big thing, where do we go from here, is to go from here.
And by you mentioning that, it sparked in me a quote that Margaret Mead stated, saying that, "Never doubt that a small group of people can change the world, for it is indeed everything that ever has been." And is, as you stated, it doesn't matter if you're a group of 1 or a group of 20, as long as you have that spark within you and within that particular circle to make a change and to, as you say, go to the problem at its source and strike it when the iron's hot, really. It's all about how you become that change instead of waiting for that change to actually happen.
That's right. We're agencies of change. That's what makes, but that connection is what makes us agencies of change. We're not agencies of change disconnected from the change process. You see, that we're not we're not from Mars. We're from Georgia. Yeah. We're agencies of change. That's what that means. Make the connection. Go where the problem is and see what we can do. And the more we learn about the problem, we may find more that we can do. But the more we can do, the more we can communicate to others to get involved. Because they say, well, I used to feel the same way you did, you know. And I said there's nothing to do, but I went there, you know, and here's what I found. And there's something we can do. Why don't you try? Just go there and try. You can urge other people to go because you've been. You can't urge them to go if you ain't been, you know, based on some theory. You see, because you can't tell people what's there if you haven't been. Well, what's there? What did you find? Well, I haven't gone, but
You should go.
then you go to looking foolish.
Yeah.
Hear what John said? He told me to go, and he ain't been.
Yeah.
You're not. What's up, bro? That's the way it goes down.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us, and we hope that you have been inspired to motivate the spark in your hearts to go out and change America, and we hope to speak to you soon. And thank you, Mr. Odell, for honoring us with your time and efforts to help us learn from those who have made history, how to change America and how to make America better and how to help us help others change America.
Well, I'd like to thank all the students and the Institute for Community Leadership for this opportunity. I've enjoyed it. I always enjoy getting together with you all because, well, for me, it is such an affirmation that the struggle continues. And of course, that means a lot to someone who has put a lot of time into the struggle. It continues. I have so much confidence in you, and I'm deeply grateful that I've been able to spend a few minutes to have a conversation that I hope has been helpful to you and your listeners in terms of this period of very serious reflection and action. This is a very important period for us in the growth of our movement because much is at stake, and we are rising to the occasion by virtue of our everyday commitment and work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.